Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's the first Thursday 13 of the year. And we are ready to count down the longest commutes in the US. Yeah, I know. We're starting off our list with a really important thing for all those people who are going back to work. You may be not looking forward to going back to work, but at least you aren't these guys. Unless you are these guys, then let us know in the comments if you're one of these longest commutes in the US. This is Before Coffee.
Short, lengthy show.
Yeah, this is Before Coffee, our comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where me and my dad look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we've started, and we haven't had any caffeine. Let's sleepily read these headlines and sleepily read these stories. Today on Before Coffee, Iran to hold nuclear talks with France, UK, Germany on January 13th. And voters dub Keir Starmer's government incompetent and dishonest in shock new poll.
And illegal fireworks cause a mass casualty event in Hawaii. Plus, we look at a tunnel that is the world's largest unused tunnel.
Big news coming out of Ukraine. They halt the transit of Russian gas to Europe after a pre-war deal has expired.
And Thursday's 13, we're going to look at the 13 longest commutes in the United States because we don't have mass transit.
Culture news. Neil Young pulls out of Glastonbury 2025, claiming festival is under corporate control of BBC. Welcome to reality, Neil.
And it's National Science Fiction Day. Science Fiction Day on January 2nd, 2025 on Before Coffee.
Start this year with a bang and a lot of bangs and a lot of news because, you know, the world doesn't stop turning just because it's still technically a holiday week for a lot of people, at least here. A lot of people just took off the Thursday and Friday. I'm not going to go back to work for 2 days just so I can go back on the weekend. So, some people are still, but not our political leaders. They're going. They're ready to start the year. They're ready to get things rolling now that the holiday season is over. So, for this first thing up in the plans, I guess the global plans, is Iran holding nuclear talks with France, UK, and Germany. This is going to occur on the 13th, which I believe would be probably a week and a half from now. Yeah, a week and a half from now. The next round of nuclear talks, this is an Al Jazeera by probably somebody at the bottom of the, just sources, news agency, just everyone knows about this, okay? The next round of nuclear talks between Iran and France, the United Kingdom and Germany will take place in Geneva in January, Iran's semi-official ISNA news agency reports. Citing the country's deputy foreign minister Kazim Garibabadi, the new round of talks between Iran and 3 European countries will be held in Geneva on January 13th, Garibabadi said yesterday on the 1st of January. Iran held talks with 3 European powers about its disputed nuclear program in November. Those discussions, the first since the presidential election in the US, came after Tehran was angered by a Europe-backed resolution that accused Iran of poor cooperation with the United Nations nuclear watchdog. Tehran reacted to the resolution by informing the IAEA watchdog that it plans to install more uranium-enriching centrifuges at its enrichment plants. On December 17th, the 3 European countries accused Iran of growing its stockpile of high-enriched uranium to unprecedented levels without any credible civilian justification. Yeah, why do they need all this uranium for if it's not for blowing things up? They have also raised the possibility of restoring sanctions against Iran to keep it from developing its nuclear program. Because using uranium is just really not a thing anymore for power. If they were doing it to create nuclear power plants, we use a totally different, more stable and safe nuclear isotope than uranium. So uranium is really only, you don't need that much too. You only need a small prick of uranium to activate. I can't remember what it's called right now. This other isotope. You don't need a lot of it. So the only reason, that's why they're thinking, the only reason Iran needs a lot of it is because they're planning on blowing some stuff up. So IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi told Reuters news agency in December that Iran is dramatically accelerating its enrichment of uranium up to 60% purity, close to the roughly 90% level that is weapons grade. Right. Iran insists on its right to nuclear energy for peaceful purposes and has consistently denied any ambition of developing nuclear weapons capability. Of course, they can't share where they're building these nuclear power plants because that would be a huge security risk. Because if somebody does want to invade Iran and blow them up, hey, we know where your nuclear power plants are, thanks to that previous moment when you told us where they were. In 2015, Iran reached an agreement with world powers, including the US, to curb its nuclear program due to concerns about the country potentially developing nuclear weapons. But in 2018, the then administration of Donald Trump exited Iran's 2015 nuclear pact with 6 major powers and reimposed harsh sanctions on Iran, prompting Tehran to violate the pact's nuclear limits, with moves such as rebuilding stockpiles of enriched uranium, refining it to highest fissile purity, and installing advanced centrifuges to speed up output. Yeah, why did Trump decide to increase... nobody was bothering anybody and decided, you know what, let's make him angry. Because I can. Indirect talks between President Joe Biden's administration and Tehran to try to revive the pact have failed. Yeah, especially since Trump's coming back, so he's probably just gonna break him again. But Trump said during his election campaign in September, we have to make a deal. Because the consequences are impossible. We have to make a deal. Yeah, maybe about the deal you broke in 2018. Just an idea. The January 13 talks will take place 1 week before Trump's return to the White House. So there's your news coming from Iran. Let's go to somewhere a little closer to me, which is the UK. Now, the UK famously, as anybody who pays attention to UK politics knows, had a huge leftist sweep. But also, as anybody who pays attention to politics knows, they're not really leftist. Labour is basically conservatives light. They do hold the same beliefs as the Conservatives or the Tories. And so nothing has really changed. And that is why the polls are not... I don't think they're shocking at all. But according to The Independent, they're shocking. This is from Kate Devlin. Voters believe Sir Keir Starmer's government is incompetent and dishonest, according to a shock new poll. They are increasingly turning away from Labour, a new analysis of council by-elections shows. Just months before Sir Keir faces his first big electoral test as Prime Minister in May, the analysis suggests. In his New Year message, the Prime Minister said there was still so much more after a difficult first 6 months in Number 10. The Prime Minister said while the work to change the UK had begun, he knew that for many it was hard to think about the future when you spend all of your time fighting it through the week. Labour has struggled since its landslide election victory in July, dogged by issues including freebie scandals to the backlash to Rachel Reeves' budget. Just over half described the government as incompetent and dishonest, according to YouGov polling for The Times, while just a quarter say the opposite. The poll also found that 56% believe the government had been unsuccessful, with only 12% saying Labour has been successful. It's only been 6 months and they're rewriting, 12 years worth of Conservative government? It's gonna take a little longer than 6 months. I wish it was easy just to flip the switch. And now we all love working people and they have the support and NHS is funded. We did it, guys! You know?
Just, they're like gaslighting.
Yeah.
There's not much else. There's no story there. Just basically, oh yeah, we asked some people some loaded questions and make sure that we get a line on it.
As 2025 begins, just 31% declare they are optimistic about 2025, with 37% pessimistic. On the key challenge of economy, just 21% say they trust Labour most on the issues, with 24% saying they prefer the Conservatives, the Tories' first lead since before Liz Truss was in Downing Street. The NHS is the only major issue topic on which Labour retains a significant lead. 29% they trust the party the most, with Nigel Farage's Reform UK second on 13%. Ooh, that's not good. A new analysis of recent council seat losses also suggests that Sir Keir leads the most unpopular incoming government of all time. Yeah, I mean, they're the only time there's been a huge sweep to the other side in 12 years. Hello? Not really fair comparison. The review by Lord Hayward, a Tory peer and pollster, found that the Labour's unpopularity had intensified since the budget. Yeah, I'm sure that guy's not biased at all. Labour's huge election victory led to an unprecedented 176 council by-elections as councillors became new MPs. But the party has made a net loss of 27 seats while the Tories are up 24, according to analysis. Lord Hayward said the results confirm what people are seeing in the opinion polls. This is the most unpopular incoming government of all time, he says, unbiasedly and with no ill intent, I'm sure. He told The Independent that to turn things around, Sir Keir will have to come up with a clear implementation of clear policies. We are seeing that people just don't know what the commitment is. Why are we having plans for the NSA not due to be published until March? That is 9 months after you come to power, Lord Hayward said. And that's, I think, what is corrosive for them, is the fact that they have plans and consultation documents rather than policies which are being implemented. Yet again, it's only been 6 months. But whatever, everyone just likes to act like governments, are just quick and upturned and always on the spot ready to change stuff, which they have never been in the history of the world. Governments take their sweet ass time, and then it's like, wow, we needed funding for this 3 years ago, and we finally got it today. All of us are dead, though. It's the classic story of governments. Do I wish they were faster? Yes, but this is just reality here. But there's my two news stories on politics going on here in Europe. On to your story.
Okay, getting ready to start. We have explosions all over the United States on New Year's Day. We have fireworks, as most countries do, fireworks explosions. But in Hawaii, we have an explosion that killed people. A deadly explosion has sparked. This is from Bryce Moore of KHON2.com, TV station in Hawaii, I'm guessing. The deadly explosion has sparked urgent calls for law enforcement and elected officials to reassess how illegal fireworks laws are enforced and what must change to avoid more tragedy. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi made himself very clear after the devastation on New Year's Day. Enough is enough. The situation is out of control. It cannot be allowed to continue. We will not allow it to continue, Blangiardi said. The Honolulu mayor and Governor Josh Green said they are in the process of coordinating with federal and state officials to impose tougher penalties on distributors and implement new technologies to stop the shipments of explosives. Yes, we're going to describe the event pretty soon instead of the reaction, hopefully. So you have to realize illegal fireworks it's contraband, it's criminal contraband. So they're follow the same smuggling patterns as legal drugs, as legal ghost guns, said Department of Law Enforcement Director Jordan Lowe. The DELE Illegal Fireworks Task Force seized more than 40,000 pounds of illegal fireworks imports in 2024. But in 2023, the amount seized was more than 4 times greater at 187 pounds. Director Lowe also confirmed reports of threats made by the smuggling network to discourage residents from tipping authorities off. Something about the fireworks itself, the actual event.
Like what happened? I guess they don't know yet. Investigation's ongoing, I suppose.
We're talking about the politicians saying things, but nothing about what actually happened. Legal fireworks, it's cultural. We all understand that, but we need to start working in public more. Okay. We're going to quickly look up the story because the stupid story about the story just talks about the Let's do the story for the same thing. 4 dead, many injured. Okay, let's see what the actual news story is about it instead of what the politicians are doing. Honolulu Emergency Services responded to multiple firework-related incidents on New Year's Eve, including one mass casualty event in the Salt Lake area. The first firework-related incident of the night came from Kalani. I think that's how you pronounce it. Officials said the first call came at 9:51 p.m. after a suspected firework possibly exploded in a person's hand. Paramedics treated 14-year-old male who suffered burns to his hand from a firework blast. He was treated with advanced medical care and transported trauma care in serious condition. In a separate incident, a 19-year-old male is in critical condition after surviving a severe arm injury, also from suspected firework blast. He succumbed to his injuries, that person, and died on New Year's Day.
Oh, no.
Paramedics then headed a call where a 34-year-old man was in serious condition after suffering a traumatic head injury from a suspected firework blast. Multiple ambulances and Honolulu Fire Department units were called to Salt Lake area just a few minutes in New York to respond to a mass casualty event. According to the Honolulu EMS, a total of 22 patients were identified. 2 patients were pronounced dead at the scene, and the mayor's office said a third person also died. Another 20 were transported to various trauma hospitals around Oahu in serious or critical condition. Firefighters ensured that there was no fire and conducted a search for other patients before assisting EMS with patient triage, treatment, and transport. Honolulu EMS then received a call at 12:04 a.m. to treat a 25-year-old man who suffered an extensive hand injury from an apparent firework explosion. He was transported to a trauma center in serious condition. Paramedics then headed to Iwa Beach area to treat a 59-year-old female and a 72-year-old male, both in minor condition, whatever that means. They were treated for burn injuries to their legs due to the fireworks. So yes, bunch of dangerous people hurting themselves mostly.
Yeah, reminders that fireworks are explosions with, they're basically explosives.
Yeah, well, live and learn and then blow your arm off. And then let's go on to the commuting news, as we're going to do more about commuting as the world goes back to work today. Some people go back to work today. This is from travel.com. The world's largest underwater tunnel is barely being used today. Under the world, this is Rebecca Crow from the travel.com. Russell Crowe's sister, probably not. Around the world,
Russell Crowe.
there are some truly Rebecca starts with an R. From the engineering marvel of the popular Channel Tunnel, linking the UK to France, to the world's longest and deepest tunnel in the Gotthard Tunnel in Switzerland. We love traveling through subterranean worlds. We do? I didn't know that. Well, we do. It's according to this article, we do. However, some of the world's largest tunnels are less popular than others, despite the hefty investment that goes into these feats of engineering. The longest underwater tunnel in the world is now barely being used. So while we're conversing about a transatlantic underwater tunnel linking the U.S. to UK, well, we're not conversing about it.
I'm conversing about it, that's for sure.
Leon Musk brought it up so everybody thinks it's the real thing.
I brought it up before him, okay?
Leon, know what? Leon, start taking, get your shovel and get going. Because we're going to sit there and watch you sink billions into your tunnel. I would love to see that happen. Anyway, or send everybody that wants to go to Mars. Send them to Mars. They think Mars is a great place. Send them there. Anyway, so it's the world's biggest and most underutilized tunnel in the world is in Japan. While it may seem easy to beat traffic and hide unsightly roads away from public view, is it worth billions of dollars spent? The Seikan Tunnel in Japan is barely being used today. Cheap, fast flights between Honshu and Hokkaido are rendering the tunnel surplus to requirements. Located in Japan, the world's longest underwater tunnel, the Seikan Tunnel, runs between the popular main islands of Honshu and Hokkaido. Honshu is the home to many of Japan's major cities, including Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, Japan's ancient capital and tourism hotspot. To the north, Hokkaido is a popular destination for travelers looking to spend a week escaping the Honshu heat, especially to enjoy the fine ski season at Sapporo. However, the Seikan Tunnel isn't designed Sapporo. I said something wrong?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just a weeb, so I actually know about Japan, so I know how to pronounce the word.
You don't hear stuff. Yeah, I do it, but you don't hear me. The Seikan Tunnel isn't designed for cars. Instead, it is exclusively a train tunnel running 33.46 miles, around which is half of which is underwater. It's an insane feat of engineering when you factor in that it was built to withstand earthquakes and tsunamis, both of which are unfortunately pretty regular occurrences in Japan. It takes things to another level. Despite this, the Seikan Tunnel is waning in popularity. Cheaper and quicker flights between the islands have become a go-to option for travelers looking to get between Honshu and Hokkaido. With increased routes and more affordable airlines cropping up, the need for the tunnel is becoming lower. The need is becoming lower? Is that proper English? I don't think so. Why was the Seikan Tunnel built in the first place? Well, let's find out. So the flights are both cheaper and quicker than taking the train to the Seikan Tunnel. Then why was it built in the first place? Well, context matters. The tunnel began construction in 1964 and wasn't completed until 1988. In the 1950s, when the tunnel was proposed, ferries ruled the waves along the Tsugaru Strait. However, frequent typhoons were wreaking havoc, resulting in ferry disaster caused by the 1954 typhoon that killed 1,400 people. Around 3,000 workers were digging the tunnel at any time during the tunnel building. Of course, creating an underwater tunnel was a perilous job, and sadly, 34 people died in the 24 years of the Seikan Tunnel's construction. The result is a train tunnel that only takes around 24 minutes from the end to get through. However, the overall journey time from the city and the cost of the journey time versus the flight alternatives meant that the tunnel sees far fewer passengers than it did when it first opened. Despite being the pride of the Japanese engineering industry and remaining the longest and deepest underwater tunnel in the world, times have changed since the tunnel began construction in 1964. However, the increase in sustainable travel and slow train travel over emission-heavy flights may see the tide turn.
Yeah, what they need to do is make the flights more expensive, and then people will use the tunnel again. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, once fuel gets more expensive. You can only travel through the Seikan Tunnel by train, which has caused some issues. Initially, slower commercial trains went through the tunnel alongside the regular freight tunnels, which brought goods such as agriculture products between the two islands. These worked side by side pretty well until 2016. In 2016, the Shinkansen, otherwise known as the bullet train, was allowed to go through the Seikan Tunnel. And until this point, the tunnel couldn't accommodate the speed and technology of this newer train. The slower alternative passenger train stopped operating when the bullet train appeared. However, the speed of the train can cause shock waves along the rails. This can be an issue if there's a freight train in the tunnel. So if there's both a bullet train and a freight train in the Seikan Tunnel simultaneously, the bullet train isn't allowed to travel at full speed for safety reasons. This means there are a lot of coordination and scheduling efforts, meaning the passenger routes aren't always super frequent. Excuse me. If you're traveling through Japan or the JR Pass, the most popular Shinkansen Rail Pass, this does include travel through the Seikan Tunnel. This means you won't have to pay extra, but you may want to reserve your passage in advance. Really? You have to reserve your passage in advance, but it's not used that frequently. That's kind of conflicting, right? It's popular enough where you have to get it in advance, so it tells you something that people are still using it. So despite costing billions to build and maintain the world's longest underwater tunnel, the Seikan Tunnel in Japan is barely being used. The combination of quicker and cheaper flights between Honshu and Hokkaido has made the crossing almost obsolete from a traveler's perspective. That's absurd. It's not obsolete. This is a temporary situation, and I think this article is a whole lot of using information to make a point instead of using all the information available. When they said it's hard to get a seat, you have to book in advance. Well, that tells me that people are using it, right? Make sure you book a seat on this very unpopular flight or a certain popular train because it's popular.
Hey, I mean, maybe I'm a weird one here, but I love trains, and I'd rather be on a train than a plane. And I don't even hate planes. I like being on planes too. I like being able to see everything from above. But trains are just cooler. And
yeah. The commute to get there, the commute to get to the train is what they're talking about as being cumbersome. You might just go to the airport. Of course, when you get to the airport, what do you do? You got to rent a car, you got to take a taxi, you got to get around wherever the hell you got. So I don't know. You're still in the same situation. Anyway, that's all. That's the story. And cut scene. I don't know what the hell to say. Back to you.
All right. Let's go on to my big story of today, or my longer one, which is the end of Russian gas to Europe. Now, this has been a thing that has been expected to happen. I think some politicians were trying to avoid it ending, which is why a lot of people were like, we need to hurry up and get Ukraine and Russia have a peace treaty so we can get back this gas, but it's not happening, right? The deal is expired as of this year, well, yesterday even. And now Ukraine, well, it's not just that, but Moscow has nobody to sell the gas to because they were selling it to Europe. It's gone now. Not that they were selling it to begin with. They've been avoiding buying Russian gas for, I think, 2 years now. This is by Hanna Arirova and Joanna Kozlowaska on AP News. Coming out of Kyiv, Ukraine on Wednesday halted Russian gas supplies to European customers through its pipeline network after a pre-war transit deal expired at the end of 2024 and almost 3 years into Moscow's all-out invasion of its neighbor. Even as Russian troops and tanks moved into Ukraine in February 2022, Russian natural gas kept flowing through the country's pipeline network, set up when Ukraine and Russia were both part of the Soviet Union, through Europe and under a 5-year agreement. Russia's state-owned energy giant Gazprom earned money from the gas, and Ukraine collected the transit fees, so they're both making money off of it. Ukraine's energy minister, Herman Halushenko, confirmed Kyiv had stopped the transit in the interest of national security. This is a historic event. Russia is losing most markets and will incur financial losses, Halushenko said on Wednesday on the Telegram messaging app. Europe has already decided to phase out Russian gas, and this aligns with what Ukraine has done today. At a summit in Brussels last month, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed that Kyiv would not allow Moscow to use the transits to earn additional billions on our blood and on the lives of our citizens. However, he briefly held open the possibility of the gas flows continuing if payments to Russia were withheld until the war ends. Yeah, just pay us for the gas. I mean, it's our pipe. You don't need to know where it's coming from. Gazprom said in a statement, it has no technical or legal possibility of sending gas through Ukraine due to Kyiv's refusal to extend the deal. Before the war, Russia supplied nearly 40% of European Union's pipeline natural gas. I mean, we should stop using natural gas in general, but maybe this will push us to do that, because I don't know. I've been saying for years to get rid of our gas stove here, and I mean, I've been living here for 7 years. We might do it this year. We might finally do it this year. Go to induction, which is way better for energy consumption. Gas flowed through the 4 pipeline system, one under the Baltic Sea, one through the Belarus and Poland, and one through Ukraine, and one under the Black Sea through Turkey to Bulgaria. After the war started, Russia cut off most supplies through the Baltic and Belarus-Poland pipelines, citing disputes over demand for payment in rubles. The Baltic pipeline was blown up in an act of sabotage, but details of the attack remain murky. Russian cutoff caused an energy crisis in Europe. Yeah, I was there. It was very interesting. That's why we have a bunch of solar panels now on our roof. Germany had to shell out billions of euros to set up floating terminals to import liquefied natural gas that come by ship, not by pipeline. Users cut back as prices soared. Norway and the United States filled the gap, becoming the 2 largest suppliers. Europe viewed the Russian cutoff as an energy blackmail and has outlined plans to completely eliminate Russian gas imports by 2027. Zelensky said on Wednesday that halting the transits would see Moscow lose one of the most profitable and geographically accessible markets for its gas. In a post on Twitter, he said Russia was resorting to cynical blackmail of partners. Russia's share of the EU pipeline natural gas market dropped sharply to about 8% in 2023, according to data from the EU Commission. The Ukrainian transit route served EU members Austria and Slovakia, which long got the bulk of the natural gas from Russia, but have recently scrambled to diversify supplies. Gazprom halted supplies to Austria's OMV in mid-November over a contractual dispute, but gas flows through Ukraine's pipeline continued as other customers stepped in. Slovakia this year inked deals to begin buying natural gas from Azerbaijan and also to import U.S. liquefied natural gas through a pipeline from Poland. Among the hardest hit with EU candidate country was Moldova, which was received Russian gas via Ukraine and has brought its in emergency measures as residents brace for a harsh winter and looming power cuts. Separately from Kyiv's decision to let the transit deal expire, Gazprom said last month it will halt gas supplies to Moldova starting, January 1st, citing unpaid debt. Gazprom has said Moldova owes close to $709 million for past gas supplies, a figure that country has fiercely disputed. Heating and hot water supplies were abruptly cut off on Wednesday to households in Transnistria, Moldova's breakaway region that has for decades hosted Russian troops. As Russian natural gas stopped flowing to the territory, local transit operator Transgaz Transnistria said. But those are fellow Russians. Why aren't they supporting their fellow Russian troops? Interesting. Greed knows no bounds. In an online statement, the company urged residents to gather household members together in a single room, hang blankets over windows and balcony doors, and use electric heaters. It said some key facilities, including hospitals, were exempt from the cuts. Interesting. It's so funny to hear the guy who can solve your problem. Oh, you have no heat? Well, here's a way where you can still survive the winter. How about you give us ways to heat our homes, asshole? That's just something messed up for the company that's cutting you off, telling you how to, here, just do this instead. How about you just give me the stuff you're already giving me? On December 13th, Moldova's parliament voted in favor of imposing a state of emergency in the energy sector as fears mounted that the gas shortages could trigger a humanitarian crisis in Transnistria for decades dependent on Russian energy supplies. Oh, you picked your side there, buddy. Many observers have predicted that the looming energy shortage could force people in the separatist territory to travel to Moldova proper, seeking basic amenities to get through the harsh winter and placing further strain on resources. Moldova, Ukraine, and EU politicians have repeatedly accused Moscow of weaponizing energy supplies. Polish Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski called Ukraine's move to halt supplies a win for those opposed to the Kremlin's policies. In a post on Twitter, Sikorski accused Moscow of systematic attempts to blackmail Eastern Europe with the threat of cutting off gas supplies, including through a Baltic pipeline bypassing Ukraine and Poland and running directly to Germany. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico claimed Wednesday that the end of gas flow in Ukraine will drastically affect us all in EU, but not Russia. Fico, whose views on Russia have sharply differed from the European mainstream, has previously criticized Kyiv's refusal to extend the transit deal and threatened to end electricity supplies to Ukraine in response. Sounds like he has some stocks in Russian natural gas. That's what it sounds like. My stocks are dropping! You guys are assholes! Moscow can still lend...
Who will think about my stock price?
Yeah, exactly.
My course.
I don't trust any politicians at all. Unless they make it illegal for politicians to have stocks, I don't trust a single politician. Moscow can still send gas to Hungary as well as non-EU states, Turkey and Serbia, through the Turk Stream pipeline across the Black Sea. And of course, you can just transport that gas into EU through that way. So, steady reduction of Russian gas supplies to European countries has spurred them to hasten the integration of Ukraine's energy grids with its neighbors to the west. Last week, private Ukrainian energy utility DTEK said it had received its first shipment of liquefied natural gas from the U.S., delivered through a newly expanded network spanning 6 countries from Greece to Ukraine, a significant step in reducing regional dependence on Russian energy. Separately, overnight and New Year's Day, Russia launched a drone strike on Kyiv that left 2 people dead under the rubble of a damaged building, according to the city administration. At least 6 people were wounded across Ukrainian capital, according to Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Russian shelling also killed a man and wounded 2 women in Ukraine's southern city of Kherson, regional authorities reported. So they're still, surprise, Russia's still bombing everyone, but they now aren't making money off gas, and maybe this will cut the funding to some of their military initiative. Here's my long story on Kyiv and gas in Europe. Boy, does it smell. Onto your story. The Thursday's 13.
Yes, and gas powers cars. Well, gasoline does anyway.
Petroleum.
So we're going to talk about commuting. How much time Americans waste every day sitting in their car going to work. And a lot of times it's to a
much.
job where you just sit in front of a computer and do this that you could have done at home.
But we need people to come
in
in twice a week so we can defend owning a building for the whole year, you see? So you have to come in at least twice a week.
Oh. Twice a week, 5 times a week, man. So we got a chart here. We got a chart here. I got one of them jobs. I got to go in there and sit there and like, oh, I'm a presentable. I'm a person. I'm here. This is from an article from visualcapitalist.com. And I put my glasses on so I can read it. And let's just read the article. After a brief pause during the remote first pandemic era, long commutes have once again become a significant part of workers' daily routines, with many spending substantial time traveling to and from the workplaces. In 2023, the average one-way commute time for U.S. workers was 26.8 minutes. But which cities have the longest ones? Based on rankings, California commuters endure some of the longest commutes to work. 6 of the top 10 cities with the longest commutes are located in the Golden State, mainly suburbs of the Bay Area or near Los Angeles. So let's get on to the list. And they listed 10 for the article, but I found their original data. So I'm going to list the top 13. And we're also going to list not only the minutes they spend per day, but the commute in days annually. How many days do you spend in your car going to and from work? And the number 13 is Santa Clarita, California, which is out north east of Los Angeles. Santa Clarita, California has a 32 minute commute. And that tallies up to 10.9 days spent in your cars. 10 days of the year, 10 days. Imagine just spending 10 days in your car, going somewhere and not interacting with humans at all whatsoever. 10 total days. Anyway, I've described that enough. Number 12 is Hollywood, Florida. Not Hollywood, California, Hollywood, Florida.
Wow.
Their commute time is 32 and a half minutes. Or 32.3 minutes for Hollywood, California, which is near Fort Lauderdale. I know exactly where it is. That is number 12. Number 11 is Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga is out also east of Los Angeles. And that is 32.7 minutes. And they're spending 11.1 days in their car per year, as the people in Hollywood, Florida are only spending 11. Stockton, California is tied actually for 10th with Rancho Cucamonga. Stockton, California is Northern California. That's probably part of your Sacramento or San Francisco commute. Those people are spending 32.7 minutes in their car every day, or 11.1 days per year. Lancaster, California, another place out in the desert, and east of Los Angeles, east of Riverside, I believe even. Well, Fontana, definitely. Lancaster spending 32.9 minutes in their car every day. 32.9 minutes or 11.2 days. We're creeping up slowly. They're not exactly blowing our minds yet. Number 8 is Fontana, California, which is out in the eastern high desert of California. 33 minutes and 33.3 minutes or 11.3 days if you're looking at the yearly time you spent in your car in Fontana, California. In Chicago, you can look to spend 33.5 minutes in your car or 11.4 days a year. We know where Chicago is. It's Lake Michigan. Corona, California, another desert city out east of Los Angeles. 34.2 minutes per day in your car or 11.6 per days per year. We're still in California. Moreno Valley, another city east of Los Angeles. Moreno Valley. This is very Los Angeles intensive, this one.
Yep.
Moreno Valley, you're going to spend 35 minutes a day in your car, going back and forth to work, or 11.9 days a year. Number 4 is we're getting finally to the East Coast again. Yonkers, New York, which is basically a suburb of the Bronx. In New York, you're going to spend 36.4 minutes in your car. These are one-way, by the way. These are a one-way trip, so you're going to do this twice a day, typically. So Yonkers, your one-way commute is 36.4 minutes, and you're spending 12.4 days in your car to and from work per year, not getting paid for it. Number 3, Jersey City, which again is basically a suburb of New York City, is in New Jersey, but it's right across the, I believe it's East River or the Hudson River, one of the two. Anyway, New Jersey City, or might be just across New York Harbor. I don't know. I'm not a New York geography expert. New Jersey City is 37.4 minutes in your car every day. Each commute, or 12.7 days per year. Number 2 is New York. That's right, New York, a place that has subways and trains running to it and everything, but people are still spending 40.7 minutes in their car every commute, and at 13.8 days per year. And number 1 city with the longest commute is also in California, Palmdale, California, where the commute is 45.5 every day. 45.5, that's so 90 minutes every day spent in your car doing nothing constructive except cursing at other drivers, and 15 and a half days per year. Palmdale, California, I'm not exactly sure where that is. I'm pretty sure it's near Los Angeles. Let's check the maps. Oh yeah, it's out. No surprise here. It is out north and east of Los Angeles. So there you are, your fun commute facts about the United States and the horrible amount of time we waste in our cars. Back to you.
This is exactly why people should get paid for their travel time. And they get that in the Netherlands. You do actually get paid for your travel time. It's called the travel time allowance or whatever.
For a job I can do remote, you ought to pay me for it.
Yeah, exactly. You're making me come to work for something I can do at my house? Yeah, okay. Like, I understand when it's something security intensive, like, I don't know, you don't want people accessing your network and hacking you and taking all the data or whatever. But
or a factory job. You work at a lumber mill.
You have to physically be there. Yeah. For sure.
You're the foreman at a work site. You got to be there. But just office job?
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, let's go from corporate control to Neil Young, citing that as the reason he's leaving Glastonbury. He was originally going to be playing the festival, and now he said the BBC owns Glastonbury. I just discovered this because I woke up from my nap, and now he's not going anymore. The 79-year-old musician says the music festival is not the way I remember it being, after BBC wanted us to do a lot of things in a way we are not interested in. This is from Sean Kane on The Guardian. Neil Young has announced that he will not perform at the Glastonbury this year. On his website, the Neil Young Archives, detailing why he and his band, the Chrome Hearts, were backing out of the music festival held each year at Worthy Farm in Somerset. The Chrome Hearts and I were looking forward to playing Glastonbury, one of my all-time favorite outdoor gigs, Young wrote. We were told that BBC was now a partner in Glastonbury and wanted to do a lot of things in a way we were not interested in. It seems Glastonbury is now under corporate control, and it's not the way I remember it being. The BBC has been partnered with the festival since 1997. Sorry, did I say 20 years? I meant almost 30 years. It's been under corporate control. And like I said, he just woke up from his nap and discovered the BBC. As long as I've been alive, the BBC has been partnered with the festival. Who did this? I don't know. You should have said something in 1997, Neil. The Guardian has contacted the Glastonbury Festival for comment. Young had yet to be announced by an act of this year's Glastonbury, so they don't really lose much. Though a performance with the Chrome Hearts had been rumored. Other acts rumored to be performing at the 2025 festival, which will take place from the 27th to 29th of June, are Olivia Rodrigo, Rihanna, Eminem, Sam Fender, and Ed Sheeran. Rocker Rod Stewart is so far the only official confirmed act, and he hasn't said no because he discovered the BBC is part of the Glastonbury Festival. He's returning 23 years after his last performance. Actually, he was there, basically, when the BBC was part of it. Now, Rogers also accidentally confirmed that he will be performing with Chic during an acceptance speech at the Rolling Stone Awards in November. Young last performed at Glastonbury in 2009. Wait. So he was there when they were part of BBC control. Maybe they're just a bit too much social media now, right? 2009, social media was still pretty new. You know, you weren't forcing people to make TikToks and do hashtags and stuff like you probably are now. Hey, Neil, you need to make 5 TikToks for us so that we can share so people can get hyped about Glastonbury. And he's like, I don't want to fucking do this shit. I just want to play my music on the stage and go home. Yeah. But only portions of his 2-hour set were broadcast on the BBC. In response to criticism from Young fans, the BBC said it had spent the last couple of months negotiating with Young's management about how much of his set they could broadcast. So it's similar to Bob Dylan. A lot of old rockers, old rockers or whatever, are very anti-sharing the experience on the internet. When we went to that Bob Dylan concert in Oklahoma, they were like, no cameras, no phones, you're not allowed to film any of this. Because they want it to be a one-in-a-lifetime experience that no one will ever see. And I think that's probably what happened here. Neil Young was like, no, you can't show my show on stage. If you couldn't buy the tickets to come see me live, no one can see it. Neil Young's career has been conducted on his own terms, the broadcaster said in a statement at the time. Neil's management agreed to let TV and radio broadcast 5 songs as they watched and listened to his performance. They believed in this live event and retaining its mystery and that of their artist. Young was also booked to play Glastonbury in 1997, but pulled out after cutting his finger while making a ham sandwich.
No.
Sorry, the sentence. I can't play. I cut my finger making a ham sandwich.
You gotta play guitar.
This should have been on the Wacky and Weird episode yesterday of those people cutting their hands and their fingers off. Ham sandwich. Before the start of his European tour, saying at the time, I'd have eaten the thing in one piece if I'd known that cutting in half would be jeopardize the tour. It's a macaroni and cheese from now on. Okay, just wear a band. I don't understand how he cut his finger. I must have cut it real bad. Couldn't put a band-aid on. 1997. He wasn't old. He wasn't 80.
You can't slide your finger along the frets if it's broken.
Yeah, I guess. But that's why they have those cool sliding tubes, you know? I don't know. Glastonbury. I understand. You don't have to explain it. I just think it's funny that it's like, yeah, he ruined his whole tour by cutting a ham sandwich. Glastonbury's headline acts tend to be announced in March, while the full lineup is usually revealed in June right before it starts. Tickets for the 2025 festival sold out in just 32 minutes. Last year, Glastonbury was headlined by Dua Lipa, Coldplay, and SZA. The festival will then likely take a fallow year in 2026 to allow the land to recover. Last year, Glastonbury organizer Emily Avis told the BBC that fallow years are important because it gives the land a rest and gives the cows a chance to be up for longer and reclaim their land. And it gives everyone time to switch off, and I think it's quite good not to be seen to be cashing in. Also, if you know anything about Glastonbury, it gets very muddy. So that's what they mean by the land recover. At some point, there's more mud than land, and then you're just sliding through the whole thing, so you gotta let the grass grow, so to say. Get some roughage in there. Get some cow pies, with some hay to level the land. But there you go. That's your news coming out of Glastonbury, your cultural segment today on Thursday. And on to this day in history. I did get your video, or at least I heard it pop up.
All right. This day in history, in 1861, Frederick William IV, King of Prussia, from 1840, died at Sanssouci Palace on this day. So, that's when he died. 1863, on this day, the Battle of Stones River came to an end during the American Civil War, although indecisive, the clash was a psychological victory for Union forces, which were led by General William S. Rosecrans. 1896, as we move ahead, Dziga Vertov, a Soviet motion picture director whose Kinoglass filmi theory had international impact on the development of documentaries and cinema realism during the 1920s, was born. Anyway, born this day, 1896, Dziga Vertov. Starts with a D, Dziga. 1904, American actress, fan dancer, and bubble dancer Sally Rand was born in Elkton, Missouri. Famous fan dancer, which are now called strippers, bubble dancers. She would have bubbles strategically placed, fans strategically placed. Sally Rand's birthday, born in 1904, she'd be 121 today.
Wow.
1905, the Russians sold Port Arthur to the Japanese in the Russo-Japanese War. And 1920, those most spectacular of the Palmer raids took place when 3,000 to 10,000 were arrested in more than 30 U.S. cities accused of being foreign anarchists, communists, or radical leftists. The raids, led by Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer, were viewed as the climax of that era's so-called Red Scare. Of course,
people we don't like. That's what I call them.
Yeah, it's called right-wingers overreacting. Oh, we must arrest the opposition because they're against us. That's basically all that was. And they made communism a dirty word. Up until then, communism was just another political point of view, which it still is, by the way. It's still not illegal to be a communist. It's still not illegal to have a political point of view. But in this country, we decided that it is illegal for some fucking reason. Even though the Constitution says, hey, you can be anybody you want, free speech. Nope. You got political points of view we don't like. We're going to arrest you. Whatever, man. Land of the free, my ass. Anyway, 1935, the widely publicized. This is why the national anthem is totally ironic. Land of the free, horseshit. Home of the brave, horseshit. All complete horseshit. We just going to make things up that don't actually exist so we can justify our cruelty. 1935, the widely publicized trial of Bruno Hauptmann began in New Jersey as he faced charges of kidnapping and murdering the infant son of famous American aviator Charles Lindbergh. He was found guilty and executed. Of course, evidence that has come to light later in life says he either was innocent or he didn't act alone. Either way, they shouldn't have executed him. But again, United States, we'd like to bury things under the carpet and pretend that we solved the problem. 1950, German actor Emil Jennings died. I don't know why that's a big deal, but it is in 1950. That's the only line about him. In 1967, Ronald Reagan was elected governor of California. Previously worked as an actor. Running joke, Ronald Reagan, who destroyed our middle class in the United States later as president, got his start being governor of California. 2004, NASA spacecraft Stardust collected dust grains from the comet Wild 2, and the cometary material was later revealed to contain the amino acid glycine, an essential building block of life. Yes, we know life has possibilities outside of Earth. Not intelligent life, but life. Of course, Earth and intelligent life is kind of up for debate. And our featured event in 1492, Grenada was reclaimed by Spain. On this day in 1492, Grenada, home of the Alhambra Palace and the seat of the final stronghold of the Moorish kingdom in Spain, was surrendered to the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand II and Isabella I, ending the reconquest, and the Moors were done in Spain after that. 1873 is the birthday of Saint Therese Lisieux, Roman Catholic nun. That's another famous birthday. Our feature biography is Isaac Asimov. Yes, science fiction author. Isaac Asimov, born January 2nd, 1920 in Petrovichi, Russia. Died April 6, 1992 at the age of 72 in New York City. Other birthdays today, David Bailey, British photographer, born in 38. Todd Haynes, born in 1961, American screenwriter and director. And Christy Turlington, American fashion model, born in 1969. National Day Calendar. What day is it today? It's National Science Fiction Day, probably because it's Isaac Asimov's birthday. National Personal Trainer Awareness Day. So if you have a personal trainer, be aware that you have one. And it's National Buffet Day. And don't forget, be aware of them. Oh my God, it's a personal trainer. I'm aware of you, buddy. And it's National Buffet Day. So those are your days. Those are your history lessons. And it's National Cream Puff Day. I almost left that out. National Cream Puff. So there you go. January 2nd. There are your stories, all your news, all your crap we want to tell you about. January 2nd, 2025. And before Cream Puffs.
Cream Puffs. There's an anime based on that. Anyway, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands and Rod from the West Coast of the U.S. as we tie off this Thursday's 13. Let us know down in the comments below how long you're wasting time in traffic going to work and they don't pay you, or maybe they do pay you. Let us know about that too. I was previously talking about a lot of people who work in Zurich who actually just commute from where they live on a plane to Zurich because it's actually cheaper to take a flight there than to live there. Just a good example. And we will see you tomorrow for our Friday news dump, where we're going to dump all the news that you need to know before the weekend so you don't have to worry about the news. You can just have a nice calming weekend where you, stare at the sky and look at clouds or something. Whatever you want. Nothing serious. So please subscribe if you're not already. Turn on those notifications so you know when we go live. And like this video if you enjoyed learning about the news of today. Let's go on to our mic drop moment.
Isaac Asimov, and did you get any heat, so to speak, from an effort you made one time to explain a lot of the Bible miracles?
Oh, surprisingly little.
Didn't get a lot of tracts mailed to you?
Well, I got some, yes, and also some letters telling me they were praying for me, which is kind.
That's nice.
And occasionally, very occasionally, I'd get a letter calling me names. But then my usual answer was to tell them that I'm sure they thoroughly believed that when I died I was going to go to hell and suffer indescribable tortures for all of eternity. And in that
it's a weird thing to be obsessed with.
Why should they bother calling me names in addition?
Yeah.
Never got an answer.
Probably still working on the answer. They just don't write as fast as you do.
Yeah, you're going to hell.
Which ones?
I'm better than you, and I'm going to call you names.
Parting of the Red Sea, the burning bush.
Actually, what gives me the most trouble is every time I write something supporting evolution.
That
somehow sets off people.
Supporting evolution.
Yeah.
God
They
made the
want to
planet.
write back and tell me that evolution is just a theory, or they send me.
When was this? The 90s or the 80s? When was this? This looks like 90s footage. Maybe 2000.
And so on.
People are still angry about that stuff.
The word theory, since gravity is a theory too, but nobody
still worried about that stuff. You think it's going to stop?
Theory is a collection, is a system of thought. That
Gravity is a theory.
explains a
Yeah,
great
that's
many
true.
Disparate observations and puts them all into a single structure.
The thing about science
Otherwise,
is
it's
that
just
they're
a
not.
pile of observations.
Yeah.
You might say this: a pile.
They're
of
not black and
bricks
white. Science is not
are
black and white.
facts.
Gravity exists. The
And
end.
not
No, they
the
say
actual
gravity
blueprint
exists and we think it
that you
works like
follow
this,
to
maybe,
build a
but we can't
structure is a
guarantee.
theory.
Yeah.
Somehow theory's gotten the meaning of guesswork attached.
Yes, I know. That's because it's improperly used. A hypothesis is a suggested possible theory which would require support. Once it receives sufficient
It's a little
support,
long, I suppose.
it becomes a theory.
That's fine.
And theory of
People need to hear
evolution
this.
has
People need to
incredible quantities of
understand the
support.
definition of words and what they
Every
mean.
branch of science, from biology, from chemistry, from geology, from everything. It is inconceivable, really, that evolution does not exist. The only arguments people have on the exact mechanism, the analogy is, nobody is going to argue that automobiles don't exist or that they don't drive when you take off the brake and step on the gas. As to what goes on under the hood, if you're not
That's
an
the
expert,
theory.
there are probably many theories.
Yeah.
I myself don't know what goes on under the hood, but I know the car goes.
But the fact that species adapt and so on and change
And that you have a whole series of
Fit
fossils
survive.
which show, and the biochemistry of the genes Also
And that we
shows
came from apes, that's what they're really insulted by.
and
We didn't come
actually
from
see
apes.
evolution work before our eyes.
We're always
common
humans.
ancestor.
That take place
Yeah.
in,
We have a common ancestor with
usually
apes.
in
We didn't come
animals
from
that,
apes. That's
that have
the stupidest,
short-lived
simplistic view of it
so that
ever.
evolution speeds
Yeah, I
up.
know.
We find it in insects.
But that's what they believe. That
Well,
we're
Wall
trained.
Street,
That
if you look at the
scientists are
great
saying,
leaders of
right?
this country, Washington, Franklin,
I
Madison,
know.
Jefferson, and you look at what we have today and what
But you
we
have to be
learned from
blind to not see
yesterday,
the
Darwin
similarities
was
between
wrong.
apes and humans. Like, come
Maybe
on.
it'll give some comfort to your
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.